works, right? Well, so
Yeah.
you did bring up sort of the tightening economy.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
really interested in how you would approach recession planning for someone maybe who's a new entrant into this market. Like
Yeah.
what can someone do to maybe hedge themselves to have better opportunities, or give them a little bit more certainty about what's to come.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still have some PTSD left from the last recession. I was working during that time, and it's so hard to predict that, whichever business you're working for, like, will it survive or not survive, but like, will it thrive or will it not? Like, it's a little difficult, and it's also difficult to separate your own kind of career growth from the growth of a company or something like that. So I think one thing which I think really helps, like, and I especially think that a lot of our education again doesn't necessarily teach us this, but is to actually stay very conscious and aware of the company's financial performance. Like, most companies, like right now, unfortunately, a lot of companies are having layoffs. Like, that's become very common. You log into LinkedIn and there's more people who just went through that. But keeping track of that, like keeping understanding the predictors of what that happens is I think one way to just be aware of the possibility. Like, there's never like a situation where it's like, oh, a company will never have layoffs. Like, that's not a thing. Like, if push comes to shove, that might be a decision that the company has to take. So I think I mean, of course, keeping your skills current and relevant, I think is a good practice. I think also just practicing interviews every once in a while, even if you're not planning to switch a job, is a good thing to do. Because every time I've actually consciously decided that, okay, I'm going to start interviewing, it takes me a while to actually get my resume in order and then practice my pitch. Like, it's something that you just have to practice. So I think just keeping a little bit fresh, seeing what's out there in the market, what is the latest stuff that's respected and that's valued. Like, I think that's a good way to just be prepared, so that if you're ever in a situation where maybe not layoffs, but you just realize that your company is just not going to outlast this current economic climate, you're a little ahead of the game, and you know what to do. And last thing I would say is just network. I think it's really important to have that strong network of, your current colleagues, your previous colleagues, people who've left the company and gone on to do something else, or just going to conferences and things. Like, just building your network. You never know who will come handy when, and building those authentic connections early can really help when you are in a situation where you need something.
Yeah, then for in terms of networking, I couldn't agree more. I think something that a couple of things that I would add. I agree 100%
Mm.
with you.
Mm.
One for me is it's from this book by, I think it's Cal Newport, called "So Good They Can't Ignore You," and
Mm.
it's the idea is making yourself indispensable to a company. So, what types of processes, what types of work can you be doing with that in within that organization that makes it not necessarily like impossible to run without you, but
Yeah.
it makes it like very difficult for things to work. And that's not to say like you don't comment your code and you make it so no one else can decipher it. It's
Yeah,
to
yeah,
say
yeah.
that you're an integral part of this process and they value you so much that you're one of the last to go. I
Yeah,
think
and
that
also,
go
yeah.
ahead.
No, no, and also that ties in directly to the self advocacy topic earlier, right? Like, make sure that if you are doing good work already, which you probably are, like, make sure somebody actually understands the value of it. Like, it's not, it's something that they understand, that this person doing X, Y, and Z is actually beneficial to the company, and I think that's a great call out.
Yeah, well, to your point, you don't necessarily become indispensable to a company by just doing exactly what you're told,
Yeah.
right? You find those
Mm.
opportunities to create that additional value by looking around, figuring out where you can create that value, and then
Mhm.
advocating for yourself to be in that position to create that value and to become indispensable.
Yes.
So I think that that's a really important one I wanted to mention. I also think it's pretty important and valuable, which is like super strange advice, but it
Mm.
comes from my like personal perspective, is to like start a side hustle, start other
Mm.
lines of work, create some savings so that you can be more selective if you were to get fired. So if I know I have 6 months of money saved up, I have some income coming in from something I've created. I have, probably 4 or 5 months before I really start to panic, and I can use those 4 or 5 months to find a job that I'm really happy with, rather than being like, oh, I need to get paid again, I need to turn around and pick something up. And that sort of flows into the like practice you're interviewing and like staying sharp on that front. But to me, um, I have multiple streams of income from content
Hmm.
creation, from investments, from all these different things.
Yeah.
Realistically, in a bad economy, yes, those will reduce, but I still
Hmm.
have those coming in. They're still creating value for me. If you get fired from your job, I mean, you might get some residual payout, but essentially, you go from having a ton of income to zero income like that. And that to me, at least for me, is the scariest thing. So I've worked very hard to try to create these systems that allow me to have some residual stuff coming in. So, uh, you know, people would say historically before the last recession, like, Ken, what you're doing, it's so risky. How could you do that? What, your appetite for risk
Hmm.
must be crazy.
Hmm. Hmm.
To me, it's the opposite. What I'm doing is so much less risky because I have control over it. And it's not that this water tap is going to get shut off. It's that, okay, it might reduce in flow, but the guy over at XYZ company who just got fired, his tap got shut off and he's completely scrambling. I will never be in that scramble state, which I hope I'll never be in that scramble state based on the decisions that I've made. And so, it's not that everyone has to go out and do, start a YouTube channel or create a small business or
Hmm.
whatever. But you
Hmm.
can do, like a small contract on Upwork, for example.
Yeah.
You build a portfolio there. That opens the door for if people need data science consulting or contracting in the future. You have that track record and you can get paid for it. And it doesn't mean that everything comes to a screeching halt. So obviously, very passionate about this topic.